Welcome to our Year 11 information sharing session. Normally we'd be having this evening together in our school theatre, but unfortunately at the moment, for obvious reasons, that's not possible. But we're looking forward to giving you some information to help you support your children, our students, during this really important year. And so I'm going to hand over to the year leader and the progress leader, who can introduce themselves so you know who they are and their roles and how they look to help your students. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mr. West. I'm new to Year 11, even though I don't feel new because the welcome has been so warm and the opportunity to get to know the students has just been overwhelming. My main goal, my only focus as directed by Mr. Homewood and the rest of the staff here is to ensure that we can get the very, very, very best from this year, which is an uncertain year, which is a unique year. Certainly in all the times I've been in school, I've never had quite such an element of the unknown when it comes to Year 11. What I do know for certain, what I do know to be true, is that the drive, the willingness, the determination of all the people here to make the end of year, however that looks, a success, is some of the strongest I've ever seen, and that will be my main priority. I hope to get to know some of you as well as I'm getting to know some of your children. I'm always available for phone calls, for emails, for conversations, for any questions that you need answering, but I fundamentally know that this year will be a success, however shape that and however we form that. I do know that Mr. Stevens also is absolutely 100% determined to make this the best it can be. Thank you.
Hello there. I'm a face that some of you will recognise, especially if you saw me in any of the videos that I put up in lockdown to the students in the year group. I'm Mr. Stevens and I'm the progress leader for Year 11. And whilst that in its biggest sense means I'm responsible for the academic progress of the year group, really I'd like to think of it as a more holistic thing in terms of providing a pastoral support and academic support and just looking after your children basically and looking after them as we go forward from here. So that's what Mr. West and myself and the school, what we aspire to give you the support. And this is the start of a mutually supportive, both academic and personal journey towards the end of the year. And in particular with the academic focus, that means the students' final assessments, which is going to be exams, coursework, and other formal assessed opportunities that will come along between now and the end of the year. Now, we're aware that it could be a bumpy ride. There could be things that we can't control, most of the things that we actually can, and getting over the performance anxiety and the issues that arise as the year goes on are why we are here. As Mr. West said, it's an open door. Think of it as an ongoing partnership between tutors, subject teachers, and ourselves in a more formal pastoral senior role to help you find your way through. But the door is always open and there are always answers, and we don't want anyone to feel that they can't approach us. In fact, I always think the best thing to do is see us sooner rather than later. So that's us going forward. I hope that's useful, and I understand that the rest of this video will provide some further background, and Mr. Davis will be leading us on from this point on. So I hope to meet you all soon. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your time and your support. We hope that you enjoy the information and that it's helpful as follows. As Mr. Stevens said, it's going to be Mr. Davis speaking to you next. Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Homewood, and thank you also to our year leader and progress leader team. My name is Mr. Davis. I'm assistant head teacher for skills and employability, and I'm here to talk you through attitude, skills and knowledge, or as we call it, ASK, and this is how we prepare our learners for their future. So when supporting our learners' future, it comes down to the big picture, and that big picture is Milton Keynes over the next 30 years. As part of the MK Futures 2050 programme, there are a series of projects. Now, one of those projects, Project 3, is Learning 2050, and this highlights the need for students, for learners with high quality transferable skills and knowledge in order to be able to enter the labour market in Milton Keynes over those next 30 years. This is something here at Shenley Brook End School that we are dedicated to supporting our learners with. The first way in which we support our learners is through our ASK, or our Attitude, Skills and Knowledge trackers. Slide. So here you can see an attitudes tracker. You'll also find this on the school website and in your child's learning passport. You'll see across the top that we have different levels going from launching through to mastering, and you'll see here that we have 5 key attitudes that we expect students to demonstrate and also develop during their time here at Shenley Brook End School. So we want students to be curious, creative, we want them to cooperate and commit, and we want them to be consistent in what they do. And this attitudes tracker is meant as a roadmap to support them with that. If we believe, and if the student believes that they are, for example, developing with their creativity, then they can look at their attitudes tracker with support from a form tutor, from a parent, or from a teacher in order to consider what they need to do to become progressing or even better mastering. This gives us a language of learning for all year groups that we can speak to students about to support them in their attitudes development. And as I said, these attitudes can be found on our website sbeschool.org.uk. Skills and knowledge. As part of our skills framework, and this is to support the development of transferable skills for our students to go through school and take those into the workplace, we have Tensile: teamwork, expression, numeracy, solving problems, independence, literacy, and inquiry. We want to stretch students, we want to support students in their skills development so that they can demonstrate, for example, teamwork in a geography lesson, on the sports field with PE, and also at the weekend in a volunteering activity. It's that sort of teamwork that if they take into the workplace in 5-10 years' time, it will support both them and their future employer. These Tensile trackers can be found again on the school website. And with regards to knowledge, each subject team around the school have their own separate knowledge trackers. Attitudes and skills are very much generic, and knowledge trackers are applicable to the subject. Further support students, we also have ASK posters around school. Slide. Here we have an example of ASK posters, and the idea of these posters is to encourage and stimulate that language of learning. You'll see on the right an attitudes poster. Students can look at this to consider how best to demonstrate curiosity or creativity, and just to reflect on whether they're doing that or not. This will also support a dialogue between a member of staff. Slide. Next, we have flight miles. Slide. So here you see an example of a learning passport page, and on this right hand side, this is where students will collect positive flight miles. When the members of staff give the students flight miles, what they'll do is they'll also explain to the student why they're receiving that, and these will link into our attitudes and our skills. So for example, well done, you've demonstrated excellent teamwork there. I particularly like the fact you listened to your group before coming up with your final idea. Slide. Next, we have curriculum maps. So here we have an example of a curriculum map which can be found on the school website. Now Mr. Nash will be talking about these in greater detail shortly, but basically you'll see that there is opportunity to see what skills and what attitudes your child's developing in their particular year group, in their particular subject at any given time. Slide. So it's important that students reflect upon their attitude, skills and knowledge. So next I just wanted to talk you through a few examples of ASK reflection from specific subject areas. So in history, There is ASK built into feedback. So for example, here you'll see stickers to support student reflection, where students can identify which level they think they've performed at. Also, we've got this idea of dialogue between teacher and student as they reflect upon an assessment. In this case, it's broken down by each question. You can see here that again we have the pathway to support students in how they get better and improve. And at the bottom here, we have some reflection by the student to help them understand or consider what they need to do to improve for next time. Slide. So another example would be PE. Now here you can see in PE how they are using ASK with the yellow sticker there to support students in identifying their strengths and also improving upon their weaknesses. Again, more reflection, which allows a dialogue between both teacher or member of staff and student. Slide. So linking through to the MK 2050 programme, we have links with Careers, Education, Information, Advice and Guidance, or CAG. Slide. So it's important we link tensile skills from the classroom through to future career pathways. Here's an example linked to a subject, so in this case English, of how tensile skills can support in achieving a particular career pathway, in this case barristers. So on the left of this mocked up job advert, we have got tensile skills listed, expression, literacy and independence, as well as different career pathway steps. This helps us support and link the language of learning, tensile, through to career pathways, and also supports us in preparing our learners for their future. Again, it creates a dialogue between members of staff and students. Here's another example, in this case linked to the PE subject, and this is for a PE teacher. Slide. So finally, as we support our learners in preparing for their future, we talk about connective learning projects. These are designed to provide educational experiences for our students that prepares them for the Milton Keynes of their future. We plan to turn Milton Keynes into our classroom so that students can actively engage in connecting their learning. And we'll do that through a cycle where students explore real life and memorable stimulus at the start of a project. They develop cross-curricular links and tensile skills through our holistic provision. They'll innovate. We will facilitate students to shape their own responses to the issues or problems put before them. And students get the opportunity to express themselves through high quality work of which they can be proud. Slide. So thank you very much for your time. And here we have an overview of how we prepare our learners for their future through attitude, skills and knowledge.
Good evening. Thank you very much to Mr. Davis. I can't emphasise enough the importance of looking at ASK after each reporting period. It really does help students to focus their minds on what it is that they need to do to improve. So my responsibilities normally are around progress and making sure that students have everything that they need in order to do really well at school. And my responsibilities over the last few months have changed due to the current pandemic. We're trying where possible to keep all aspects of school life going, but obviously trying to make sure that students and staff are safe at this challenging time. One of the things that we were not happy about last year was our inability to meet with parents due to the lack of functionality on our current IT packages. So to stop that happening again this year, we've bought ourselves a new parents' evening system. This system will allow parents to have a conversation with each of the teachers of their children through a webcam. Parents will need to book appointments with teachers, and then they'll be able to log on to the system either through a phone or a computer, and then each appointment will happen automatically. Obviously, we have had instances where parents are running late from work or whatever that might be. This is going to cause problems with the new system as we're not meeting in person anymore. But if you have any problems or technical difficulties on the evening, we'll try, where possible, to find an alternative way of getting the information to you. So as parents evening approaches, we'll send out more information to you about logging on to the new system. Now, the other thing that I really wanted to bring to your attention is RM Unify. There's a couple of reasons for that. The main thing is that it's where our students go to access their emails. It's also where students can download Office 365, so that's Word, Excel, and all of those sort of things for free. Through the school license, so while they're a student with us, they are able to access that for free. They also have access on RM Unify to the web versions of Teams and Outlook, which means that they can use those systems. Now, Teams, for those of you that don't know, was something that we used extensively during the lockdown last year. So in the event of a partial closure of the school or a full closure, if your child is sent home, it is likely that they will have all of their lessons on their timetable when they're at home, and that will take place through Microsoft Teams. There will be instances where teachers are unwell, and we will try where possible to arrange cover for those lessons. But we certainly will be using those lessons, probably not as much as the whole lesson, but using that lesson to set up work for students to carry on doing while they're at home. And there'll be time for the students to ask questions, as these classes will be limited to 30. So access to RM Unify is really important, and having a computer at home is also equally really important. So I've sent home surveys to all of the parents. One is about IT access, and I'd really appreciate if you haven't been able to do that yet, that you make sure you fill that one in. Equally, there is another questionnaire that went out about vulnerable students and the children of critical worker parents. Now, we really want to make sure that people have access to the school if they need to, if there is a partial closure or a full closure of the school. And we do intend to have the school open, or the small school open, for the students that need access to it. The second thing is just to make sure, and I'm sure most students know their own email address now, but the username for their logon when they log in anywhere around school is the beginning part of their email address, followed by @sbeschool.org.uk. So you can see my little example there, just in case they do need a reminder about what their email address is. Now, the next bit I'm going to talk about is Go for Schools. And Go for Schools was used extensively again over lockdown, primarily as a way of sharing homework, which I'll talk about in a moment. But equally, it gives access to the timetable. So if there was a closure of the school, you would be able to see what lessons they've got on any one day and direct the students towards those lessons. So you can see the timetable on there, but you can equally, underneath there, you can see a little sample of what you might be able to see in terms of progress information. So for each subject, students may have multiple assessments during a year, and that information will be shared on the detailed progress section of their screen. You and your child can both have access to that information, but it's really useful. And I would always encourage, where possible, for you to have that conversation with your child after an assessment and just ask them what went really well in that test or in that assessment. What would you do differently next time to make sure you do better? And another thing to do is to just link it with the ASK. So find the ASK sheet for that particular subject. Just ask them to say, where do you think you are now in terms of ASK, and what could you do next time to make sure you improve? So one of the other aspects of Goes for Schools is that we have a homework module, and that will allow you to see all of the homeworks that are current for your child. Equally, you will need to be able to sometimes look back at other tasks that are maybe a little bit further back in time, just to see whether they've been completed. And you'll be able to see just on the top right there, there's view full list. So you can see all of the homeworks that have been set. Now, we've encouraged parents wherever possible to mark homework tasks as complete when they are done, but equally sometimes that is forgotten. Please contact us at school if that is the case with the homework that your child has on the system. It does allow students to tick it off once they've done it, and we will still ask students to record their homework into their learning passports. Okay, so finally it comes on to attendance and behaviour. You can see the attendance on the system that we have for your child, and if there is instances of unauthorised or unknown marks that you're a little bit worried about, I've given examples of those here, then please make sure you contact us at school and we'll look into that for you. I'd also encourage you to always have a little look at the behaviour section. We've changed that this year slightly in that teachers are now able to write home notes. Home notes means that you will get a brief idea of what the behaviour incident was in school. So it allows you to have a little bit more of an informed conversation when you're at home. But I'd encourage you, wherever you're not sure about what's been written or whether there's a behaviour incident that you're not sure about, please contact the school and ask for your year leader to speak about that. Finally, just have a little look. You can have a look at the reports. All of the reports are on Go for Schools. We'll flag that up with you when a report takes place. And you will also periodically be able to get an email home which will tell you how many positive events and how many negative events took place in the previous week. If you have any problems logging on to Go for Schools, or any kind of problems to do with Go for Schools, please contact Serena Tier, whose email is just at the bottom of the page there, and she'd be more than happy to help you. So this year is quite a stressful year. We have a lot of things going on for Year 11, some of which I haven't been able to include in this calendar, but I will be contacting you shortly about a variety of different things. The first aspect that I will contact you about will be about the exam success sessions, or ESS for short. These will start after October half term, so basically the 2nd of November. How it works is I will get the teachers to speak to each of their children that they're inviting, but we will also send out parent mail reminders to you so that you can remind your child to attend the sessions. There is also then going to be an extra parents' evening on the 16th of November. Now, on the 16th of November, what we're hoping to do is that you will meet with your form tutor, your child's form tutor, or you may be asked to meet with a member of the leadership group or extended leadership group. We want to try and start mentoring at that point. And so we will be calling home and you will be aware of what's going on in that date. So the first set of mock exams are on the 14th of December not during the Christmas holidays, but they continue after the Christmas holidays until the 8th of January. We'll then report back to you about the results of those on the 3rd of February. And there will be a parents' evening so that you can meet your child's teachers on the 4th of February. Now I did mention that there may well be a second set of mock exams which I haven't included on here. Just in case, for whatever reason, the school is closed, we may have a second set of mocks, the first set of mocks in March if the ones around Christmas weren't able to take place. And finally, we'll send out a progress check to you or a report on the 12th of April as well. Well, I hope that's been helpful, but I will obviously be giving you more information about this. But thank you very much for listening. I'm now going to hand over to Mr. Nash, who's going to talk to you more about how this fits in with homework and curriculum maps.
Thank you, Mr. McCluskey, and thank you to you all for listening to our virtual open evening presentations. As Mr McCluskey said, I'm Mr Nash and I'm one of the assistant head teachers at Shenley Brook End School. One part of my role is to oversee and monitor our curriculum. So I'm going to start off by talking about our curriculum maps and how these can be used when looking at your child's homework. Each year, our team leaders update their curriculum maps for their subject area. These maps are a very useful way of being able to see what topics your child is learning about at any given time. This proved particularly useful when students were working from home and had been working superbly through all their work being set by their teachers and wanting to get ahead of what was being learnt. It meant students were able to read over and complete their own work on topics that were coming up. To find these maps, you'll need to visit our website and click on the Student section. In there, you'll find a link to the curriculum maps. And on this page, there'll be 5 buttons, one for each year group, and you can click on whichever one is applicable to your child. Let's have a look at example curriculum map. This slide gives an example from art, and you'll be able to find all the different curriculum maps in the area that I previously described. Firstly, at the top, there will be a little context behind the curriculum your child is following. This will contain what they've learned about prior and possibly what it might lead into. Over the next few rows, you'll find information linking to our ASK structure that Mr Davis talked about. You will be able to see that the knowledge being covered, which is particularly useful if you want to ask your child about what they've been learning about in school. You will also see which skills and attitudes are being focused on at any given time. The numbers at the top indicate the weeks of the year. These are there though as a rough idea of timings of lessons. But please keep in mind things do sometimes change and these are only there as guidelines. These curriculum maps are in the process of being updated by our team leaders as we speak, and once they've been completed for this year we will update our website. But in the meantime, the ones that are there are still useful and still relevant to what is being taught in school at this time. Next, I'd like to talk about homework, and this links perfectly to curriculum maps, as the maps are there to help guide students and parents to what information is being looked at during the school year and can be used to help prompt students into reading ahead where necessary. Homework is recorded on Go for Schools, which Mr McCluskey mentioned, and this is where you should visit to see the number of homeworks your child has at any given time. But even with this system in place, I'm more than sure there'll be a time when you ask your child what homework they have and their reply will be, "I ain't got any." But if you've looked on Go for Schools and can see that they are telling the truth, then you can guide them towards the curriculum maps and get them to work on topics that they've been looking at or are going to be looking at. Also linking to homework is our homework handbook, which you can see highlighted on screen, and by clicking on this link you'll be taken to our home learning guide. The home learning guide is there to show parents the different types of homework your child could be set. It's there to dispel the myth that all homework is set in the same way and marked in the same way. Sometimes your child may be set the task to watch a TV documentary or visit a website, which will put them in a good position to be prepared for a future lesson. Or they may be given an exam-style question to answer which are designed to encourage independent study and improve their self-motivation. But alongside each piece of homework, it may be marked in a variety of different ways. On some homeworks, there may be that traditional written teacher feedback, but on others it may be assessed in class via group discussions, question and answer. So the point of this is to show that we do set and assess homework in a variety of ways. And it'd be great to talk to your child about the homeworks that they have and how that is being checked by their teachers. For the next part, I'm going to talk about Microsoft Teams. Most of you would have been using Microsoft Teams a lot over the past few months. And in this current climate, we need to be prepared to use this again should there be a need to work from home. Microsoft Teams is going to become our school's virtual learning environment over the next year, and your child will be using this more and more to access class resources and homework that is being set. You can see on screen how your child will be able to find the web-based version of Microsoft Teams by simply Googling RM Unify and entering their normal school network login, or by clicking or typing in www.rmunify.com. Once they are in Microsoft Teams, they'll be able to see a number of teams that have been set up for them, each labelled with the class code that appears on their timetable and on Go for Schools. They'll be able to click on any of the classes they have to find resources, to find posts, to find homeworks that have been set for that subject. The example on screen at the moment is one of my Year 7 classes, and you can see that they've got their first assignment set, which appears on the first page they click on, under the posts. The assignment, which is there, is their homework, and they can complete this by clicking on View Assignment, which will take them to the task and give the instructions they need, as well as the deadline. Once they've completed the task, they can mark it as done, which then informs me that when all children have finished that work. Microsoft Teams will also be used as a platform for any online learning that might have to take place at home at any point. But from all of us at Shelley Brook End School, we'd much rather focus on teaching your child in school as opposed to at home. Now that we've looked at different platforms available to your child, I'd like to talk about a topic that's going to be very close to your child's heart this year. When it comes to revision, there are many ways they can revise. But research has shown that not all revision techniques are equal. In fact, some of the most used students' techniques are quite ineffective. Rereading being one of those techniques that students like to use. Over 80% of students try to revise by just rereading their notes or their book. But even if you do this several times, countless studies have proved that this method does not help you to understand the topic or to embed the information into your long-term memory. However, the first strategy I want to talk about is called retrieval practice. Test results can rise as much as 30%. This technique involves you having to actively recall what you've been taught or read and increases understanding and drives that information into your long-term memory. So how do we do this method? Well, step 1. Once you've read over a topic, put your textbook or your notes to one side and then write down or sketch everything you can remember. But it's important to check the notes afterwards for accuracy and any important points or dates that have been missed. Next, do as many practice tests as you can. You can think up your own questions or share with a friend and do the same. Or you can use apps that you can find out there like the BBC Bite Size or Seneca Learning, which are great for revision. Afterwards, make flashcards. Write a cue or a question on one side and the answer on the other. When you can recall the answer easily, remove that card from the deck for a week or a bit and concentrate on the ones that you find hard. They are a great way to self-test and help identify weak spots. And the last bit of retrieval practice is implement spaced practice. Well, this involves reviewing a topic over a period of time. It's the opposite of cramming and is much, much more effective. The idea behind spaced practice is that you should review material a day or so after a lesson, then a week or so later, then a month later. When you're trying to recall information you've almost forgotten, your brain will have to work harder, and that strengthens the encoding of the information in your long-term memory. Next useful revision technique is an oldie, but it's still brilliant. Mind maps are a visual representation of everything within a topic. Mind mapping is a great example of active recall. It's a powerful technique that helps you to organise your knowledge, any thoughts and ideas, and enables you to see the bigger picture and connect new pieces of information together. And if you use colour and images, this will help your brain recall that information a lot easier. Another technique is summarising. A good summary should reduce the key points of text to around 20 to 40% of what was there, and without losing any of the really important information. Summarising your notes before an exam is a very effective way to revise a topic. Again, you can come back to this PowerPoint and use it as a reference later on if you choose to try this technique. But lastly from me is the top 10 revision tips that we can offer your child. 1. Make sure you have clear notes on each of your subjects. Make sure you're on top of your studies. Talk to your teacher about the notes. Make sure it's all there. 2. Break down each subject into smaller, more manageable chunks of information. 3. Create a revision timetable. Make sure it's realistic and it's got relaxation time and other things and a mix of subjects in there. 4. Revise in short chunks of time. 25 to 30 minutes is a time that is best. And make sure you give yourself lots of time for a break from revision so you don't overwork the brain and make it not work as well. 5. Find a suitable place to revise. Switch off the distractions like social media and focus on revision when you've planned to do it. 6. Use all the different techniques that we've discussed. Try them out. See which one works for you best. Not all of them will work for every person, so pick the one that works for you. If you're struggling, talk to your teacher. Don't keep putting it off. Find them the next day, talk about the problem, and that will help you in the future. Number 8, read over the specifications for your subject. Check you know that all the topics in that specification you've revised and you understand them. It's there telling you what you'll be asked questions about, so use it for your revision. Number 9, use practice papers in your revision. Mark your own answers. Ask someone else to mark them. Talk to your teacher. These mark schemes and papers are accessible to all through the exam board's websites. But most importantly, at number 10, out of all of these, stay calm and keep a balance. Keep your exams in perspective. At this point, I'd like to thank you for listening to me, and I'll now hand over to Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. My name is Mr. Doyle, and I'm here to talk to you about an extremely important matter, and that is the student well-being at Shenybrook End School, particularly in Year 11 as students reach the end of their GCSE qualification year. So where does well-being fit into our curriculum and our plans for a holistic education across Shenybrook End School and the 5 Dimensions Trust? Well, we place it right at the heart of everything we do. And I'm very fortunate to be able to talk to you today because I firmly believe that physical activity and exercise plays an enormous part in this, particularly where we have, for Year 11 students, the additional responsibility and onus on well-being through the management of exam stress. Now, talking to you about the PE team vision, we take real ownership of well-being as a factor for students. And we aspire to ensure that every student that goes through the school has had excellent opportunities to develop a lifelong love of sport and physical activity, but also a real understanding of their own health and well-being. We split this really into 4 separate sections. The physical well-being of students, it is fairly well known and common knowledge that physical activity and exercise does great things for our cardiovascular, our respiratory and our circulatory health. Students are able to learn this throughout the course of their schooling, particularly in Year 11 and 10 where they've been undertaken a qualification. But it's even more important that students understand just how important it is to ensure that they maintain a healthy lifestyle, to discourage them in the future from obesity and cardiac respiratory issues that they may unfortunately suffer later on in life if they don't take it seriously enough. But just as importantly as that is the psychological benefits that physical activity and exercise can have. The release of key hormones which allow students to feel happiness and a sense of wellness over the course of their day. These are all things such as serotonin, dopamine and endorphins, which are proven clinically to be released when physical activity takes place, particularly moderate to vigorous activity and the heart rate is raised. Now, these are key chemicals that are absolutely vital in staving off, for example, depression and mitigating the effects of anxiety and stress. And the more that students are able to access the release of these chemicals, the better for them. So we really do want to prescribe exercise as a way of keeping well, particularly in this really difficult year of Year 11 for students. And not only that, students may be feeling under pressure because they are trying to learn so much in such a short space of time, especially when it comes to revision time. And again, we have done our research over the last few years, and we understand that there is a clinical link between students' ability to learn and the physical activity and exercise participation rates of students. Put quite simply, the more that students do, the more they move, the more opportunities that they have in their week and their months of being physically active, raising their heart rate, the better they tend to do, and their outcomes are in GCSEs. There's a real link that sedentary students tend to do worse in GCSEs. And while we don't want any student to think that just because they haven't managed to maintain a healthy lifestyle at this point, that they won't be able to be successful, we do want to give them the clear link that the release of chemicals, which are becoming more apparent to scientists now, like BDNF, for example, opens up the pathways and the neurons inside the brain. And by being physically active, they can actually learn more in their classroom and academic lessons as well. Now, all of this contributes to an overwhelming sense of student well-being going through the year. And by making sure they combine physical activity with a healthy diet, with ensuring that they take the opportunity to de-stress and get enough sleep, for example, maintain good social relations and a balanced work-life balance, then fortunately, we hope that students are in a great position at this school to do as well as their potential tells them that they can. Now, if those are our beliefs about well-being, how does it translate into what we offer in the curriculum? Well, our happy, healthy, successful curriculum, which starts off at Key Stage 3 primarily, underpins everything we do in physical education lessons. It allows students to understand that it's not just their sport-specific skills that they are trying to learn and develop to be assessed against, but we're looking to develop key life skills and characteristics such as self-confidence, resilience, motivation, teamwork, and many others throughout every single lesson that they take part in. And they are assessed on that as such through the use of ASK trackers. Not only that, students will have already spent 18 months working towards a qualification in either OCR Cambridge National Sports Studies or Sports Science. They've already taken ownership and had the option and the choice of which pathway to move through, and by the time they reach Year 11 they will really start to understand the benefit of having a tangible reward at the end of their work in PE. They will know that it doesn't take away from the practical element, and they still get to enjoy all of the benefits of being physical in their practical lessons, but there is also a coursework and an exam element to it which will provide a GCSE equivalent. We find that students really value, particularly at the end of this year, they really value that opportunity to have something to show in front of them for all of the hard work that they've been able to put in, and it maintains engagement throughout the year. And for those students that have been undertaking sports leaders qualifications and have undertaken the sports leadership diploma, another unique and bespoke curriculum offer for the additional offer for PE, then students will already understand that they have had the opportunity to lead young people in festivals and in primary school tournaments. They'll have been over to the primary schools to deliver PE for 6 weeks for their actual curriculum in the local primaries. And then this year we're also taking it a step further and developing even more employability skills by introducing the YMCA Fitness and Physical Activity Level 1 award in those sessions. This gives students who may be looking and seeking a career in the sports industry a leg up by giving them some personal training advice and an understanding of maybe how to go into the sports industry as a fitness instructor. Now again, all of these things within our PE specific curriculum are all dedicated to ensure that not only students have every opportunity, but that well-being is placed at the heart of everything they do. When they step into the changing rooms or they come into every single lesson, that is what we are hoping that students will be able to experience. But we believe in these factors so much that we don't limit it to PE lessons, and through form time and assemblies in the last few years, we have really looked to try and take on the idea of getting students to understand the importance of being physically active and of having exercise in their lives. On the screen you can see 2 videos that have been used in assemblies with students across year 7 to 11 in the past couple of years, and I have put the links on there. I encourage you to watch these videos with your child. It enables both you and them to understand just how important that physical activity, exercise and sport is. And it's not just us that believe in the power of PE and the power of physical activity, but we engage with local and national partners to try to develop and drive on this belief, encouraging us to take students and you, the parents, carers, guardians, with us on the journey to ensure that as many of our students as possible can leave with these amazing experiences. We are a nationally recognised WELL school. The Youth Sport Trust, powered by the Bupa Foundation, have launched a movement that is encouraging schools to place well-being at the heart of everything the school does. That is all the way from the very youngest students coming through to the staff who have been at the school for sometimes decades. We want every single person to be ready to learn, to be ready to engage in what our amazing school community can offer. And to do that, we have to place well-being at the heart of what we do. We made a pledge, and along with 29 other schools, we started on this journey as one of the pilot schools, and it's given us some amazing ideas and some real validation to the PE curriculum that we are offering at the moment, that it prepares our young people for the world of tomorrow and their ability to be a success in it as well. So how does all this translate into action? Well, we're looking for students and parents, carers, guardians to really step up and take ownership of their own physical activity with 30 minutes at home, where the school can signpost opportunities for new, innovative or even well-established and caring, friendly club environments to go and do sport and physical activity outside of school, hopefully in a cost-effective way. We can also try to help by ensuring that students have before, break time, lunchtime and after school opportunities to access activities for our extracurricular programme, our representative fixtures programme, but also provide movement time around the school, active classrooms and the opportunities for students to be really active during their PE lessons. By ensuring that we have 30 minutes at school and 30 minutes at home, we are getting to a point where we are reaching the World Health Organisation's suggestion and guidelines that 60 active minutes every single day is what is required for a young person to maintain that healthy active lifestyle. In this year in particular, it's even more important for students to be able to get that, and combined with a good nutritious diet, enough sleep opportunities and a real balance of work and life to try to diminish stressful opportunities, students really can get through year 11 in the right way. And not only that, they can ensure that they understand how to keep themselves well in what will be a really challenging year, and that will see them in great stead moving forward into the rest of their lives. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation, and I'd now like to hand you back over to the head teacher, Mr. Holmwood.
Well, thank you very much for watching and listening to this information presentation. We hope you found it useful. If you've got any questions, of course, please do ask the year leader or the progress leader, and we look forward to supporting you further. Thank you.